They didn't hurt you by accident. They chose to. Not in a moment of weakness, but in a moment of power. Because hurting you made them feel something. It made them feel control. It made them feel strong. It gave them what they couldn't get anywhere else. Importance. Carl Jung once said, "The reason people hurt others is because they are projecting their own pain." But there's more to it than just projection. Sometimes, pain is their only language. Sometimes, they aren't trying to break you. They're trying to break what you remind them of. You remind them of innocence, of love, of vulnerability. And that terrifies them. Not because it's weak, but because it's something they lost a long time ago. And when you showed them kindness, when you stayed loyal, even when they pushed you away, when you forgave them, even when they didn't say sorry, you became a mirror that reflected their shame, their unhealed wounds, their emotional immaturity. And instead of healing themselves, they chose to break the mirror. They chose to hurt you because it was easier than facing themselves. Let's get brutally honest for a second. People don't just hurt the weak. They hurt the soft. They hurt the consistent. They hurt the ones who don't fight back, because those are the ones who won't leave. Those are the ones who'll try to understand. Those are the ones who'll say, maybe they're just going through something. But Carl Jung warned us, when you suppress your shadow, it controls you from the dark. And for many people, hurting others is how that shadow escapes. It's how it feeds. See, the people who hurt you, they didn't see a person. They saw a safe target. You were safe to disappoint, safe to ignore, safe to lie to, safe to abandon. And why? Because you taught them you'll always be there. You taught them you'll always give more. And the more you gave, the more they took. Until you started to question if you were the problem. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, you were never the problem. Your love was. Your loyalty was. Your presence was. Because the more real you were, the more fake they felt. And when someone lives behind a mask of strength, of perfection, of confidence, your emotional honesty feels like a threat. So they punish you for it, not out of logic, but out of survival. They break you, because breaking you is easier than healing themselves. Jung explained this through the shadow self, the part of us that holds all the traits we refuse to see. The envy, the rage, the guilt, the insecurity. And when someone refuses to do shadow work, they turn those feelings outward. They blame, attack, hurt, and destroy the very people trying to love them. And you became a target of their unprocessed pain. They hurt you, not because they didn't care, but because they thought you'd never fight back. And in their twisted logic, your silence was permission. But let me ask you something. How many times did you stay quiet when it hurt? How many times did you downplay your pain so they wouldn't feel bad? How many times did you forgive people who never even apologized? Because if you've done that, you're not weak. You're wounded. And you're probably living under a dangerous belief. If I'm good enough, they'll stop hurting me. But they won't. Because it was never about how good you were. It was about how broken they are. And the more you try to prove your worth to someone who's committed to misunderstanding you, the more pain you inherit. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." It's time to make it conscious. The truth, the pattern, the pain you keep trying to intellectualize, the people you keep trying to fix. They're not hurting you by chance. They're doing it because deep down, they know you'll try to understand them instead of leaving them. That's the trap. Because here's the bitter truth. You are not here to be someone's emotional sponge. You are not here to absorb pain in the name of love. And you are not here to earn basic decency. No one who genuinely loves you will make you question your reality. No one who values you will make you feel like you're asking for too much. And no one who is truly conscious will weaponize your loyalty. So what now? Some people don't hurt you because they're in pain. They hurt you because it gives them pleasure. Let that sink in. The person who gave you false hope, who disappeared without warning, who mocked your dreams or used your emotions against you, they didn't just accidentally do that. They felt power in it, control, superiority. According to Carl Jung's shadow theory, there's a hidden part of every human being that secretly enjoys destruction, especially emotional destruction. Because when someone can make you cry, make you chase them, make you beg for love, they feel like a wad in a dying world. And in that twisted moment, your pain becomes their proof that they matter, that they can still affect someone, that they still exist. You think they're numb? No. They're watching you unravel. And that is their high. Now, most people don't want to admit this. We want to believe that everyone is just misunderstood, that hurt people hurt people. But here's the darker truth. Some people hurt you not because they're broken, but because they're bored. Because no one else gives them that emotional spike. Because you became their dopamine source. And this is where it gets dangerous. There's a pattern in emotionally manipulative people. It's subtle, almost invisible. Here's how it works. They idealize you. They tell you you're different. They flood you with compliments. They make you feel chosen. They start to devalue you. They point out your flaws. They go cold. They stop responding with the same energy. They hurt you, then reward you. They ignore you, then send a sweet message. They belittle you, then say they didn't mean it. They disappear, then return with a compliment. This pattern triggers a psychological loop called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same loop used in gambling. You don't know when the love is coming, so you chase it harder. And while you're confused, overthinking, doubting yourself. They feel control. They know exactly what they're doing because they've done it before, to others, to themselves, to anyone who gets too close. Jung believed that people who haven't integrated their shadow will project it violently onto others. They'll hurt the ones who love them because they associate love with control, or fear, or humiliation. Maybe they were controlled in childhood. Maybe they were mocked for being emotional. Maybe they were loved conditionally, only when they performed, obeyed, or shut up. So what happens? They grow up, and without knowing it, they repeat the script. They become the one who controls, who withholds, who punishes, because deep down, they believe that's what love is. So when you gave them softness, when you gave them honesty, when you made space for their emotions, they didn't feel grateful. They felt unsafe because you were playing a different game, a healing game, but they only know the hurting game. And if you try to love someone who's still addicted to chaos, you'll become their trigger, their enemy, their emotional punching bag. And worst of all, they'll make you believe it's your fault. Carl Jung warned us about this. He said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." If you don't know your own darkness, you'll confuse manipulation with connection. You'll confuse drama with chemistry. You'll confuse punishment with love. But let's break this illusion. If someone repeatedly hurts you and then blames it on you, that's not a misunderstanding. That's manipulation. If someone makes you feel guilty for needing love, that's not just how they are. That's emotional starvation. And if someone disappears when you need them most, but reappears when you start to move on, that's not love. That's control. Here's what no one tells you. People don't always hurt you because they're unaware. Sometimes they do it because they know you'll come back. And as long as you keep coming back, they'll keep feeding on your self-doubt. So what can you do? Recognize the pattern. Write it down. Say it out loud. Look at it in full light. Withdraw your energy, not to punish them, but to protect yourself. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't owe closure to someone who repeatedly opens your wounds. Start doing shadow work. If you don't face the part of you that wants to fix them, you'll always attract people who need fixing. Because the part of you that wants to prove your worth is the same part that attracts people who test it. And that's the loop you must break. So what do you do when you realize someone's been hurting you on purpose? Not because they're in pain, not because they don't know better, but because they enjoy watching you bend. Carl Jung said, "The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. But some people are fully aware of their story. They just don't want to change it because it works for them. And if you're honest with yourself, you've probably tolerated that behavior. You forgave too quickly, explained too much, stayed too long, and they learned. You're not going anywhere. That was their green signal to do it again. But now you're here, waking up, realizing. And now comes the most dangerous part. What you do after the realization. Because healing doesn't start with revenge. It starts with restraint. You'll be tempted to send a long message, to confront them, to prove that you figured it all out. Don't. The moment you explain your awakening, you give them another script to manipulate. Let your silence be the shift. Let your absence scream what your words used to whisper. See, people who rely on hurting others for validation, they expect you to stay in the loop, to be predictable, to react emotionally. The real threat? You breaking the loop, quietly, without warning, without explanation, because that's when the control dies. Jung believed that when the shadow becomes conscious, you gain power that no one can take. So here's how to turn your realization into transformation. 1. Stop over-explaining. When someone constantly hurts you, and you keep explaining your feelings, you're training them to ignore your pain. You're teaching them that your boundaries are negotiable, that your love is unconditional, even when they abuse it. From now, speak once. Make it clear, then act. 2. Detach without drama. You don't need to announce your exit. You don't need to get the last word. Just disappear from the emotional field. Stop reacting. Stop posting things they'll see. Stop hoping they'll change. People feel the shift when you stop making them the center of your inner world. 3. Do shadow work. Ask yourself, why did I attract this dynamic? What part of me needed this pain to feel alive? What role am I playing? The savior, the victim, the chaser. Every emotional wound you tolerate is tied to a story you haven't rewritten. And when you rewrite it, you stop being available for those who feed on your confusion. 4. Rebuild your emotional boundaries. This isn't about walls. It's about doors with locks. Not everyone gets access to your softness. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Not everyone who needs you should get you. Jung said that individuation, becoming your true self, requires walking alone through the parts of you that are still in chains. The part that still thinks love means fixing. The part that still believes suffering earns you attention. The part that confuses silence for peace. Walk through it, alone if needed. That's how you become dangerous to those who once controlled you. 5. Never go back to begging. Begging for love, time, attention, closure is self-harm disguised as hope. The moment you beg, you teach them they're above you. And that dynamic never heals, because once they taste that power, they'll always want it. Choose dignity, even when it's lonely, especially then. Because here's the real twist. The people who hurt you most are the ones who knew exactly how you wanted to be loved. They used your dreams against you, your softness as a weapon, your vulnerability as a map. And that's what makes it so hard to let go. Because it didn't feel fake. It felt perfect. Until it didn't. So you keep hoping they'll return to that version. But they won't. Because that version was bait. Not real, not stable, just a reflection of what you wanted. Carl Jung would say, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So make it conscious. Make it hurt. Make it real. Make it unforgettable. So you never repeat it again. Here's your final truth. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. You don't even need to be okay right now. You just need to reclaim the parts of you that were slowly erased in the name of love. Because you were never too emotional, too sensitive, too much. You were just with people who needed you to shrink so they could feel big. But not anymore. This ends when you stop asking, why did they hurt me? And start asking, why did I let them stay? You have the answer now. Don't waste it before you go. If this video broke something open inside you, don't just scroll away. Sit with it. Feel it. Then rebuild. Because the moment you understand why they hurt you, you stop begging for love from those who only understand power. If you felt seen, if something finally made sense, like this video, so YouTube knows others need it too. Subscribe to Psychatic if you want more raw, uncomfortable, and life-changing truths. And in the comments, tell me the moment you realized someone was hurting you on purpose. Say it out loud. You'll feel lighter. And if you want to help us keep making more videos like this, consider sending a super thanks. You're not broken. You're just becoming conscious. And Psychatic is where your transformation begins.